Shalom and welcome to another edition of Parasha Talk. I'm Rabbi Elliot Malamet, Highland Park, New Jersey, the Highland Park Conservative Temple Congregation, Anshe Emet. And joining me, my good friends, Rabbi Barry Chesler, Solomon Schechter, Day School of Long Island, Rabbi Jeremy Kalmanofsky, Anshe Chesed, in New York City, back from Portugal, back from a little trip. And
No, I had a great trip, but I didn't have simcha because I
I
missed it.
had Simcha. We are day 6 of the wedding week of my daughter Mayan Sarah to her beloved John Herman, Jonathan. We, the great Rebbe Eliezer ben Arya HaKohen, Leonard Cohen, wrote Hallelujah, and I put Misheberach Avotenu, Misheberach Imotenu, Hu Yivarech Hachatan Vehakala. Misheberach Imotenu, Misheberach Avotenu, Hu Yivarech Hakahala Vehachatan, Ma'ayan Yonatan, Umayan. So that was over Shabbat. We did that. That was lovely. And of course, the wedding was spectacular and beautiful and full of simcha. And with no coincidence, that might be our theme today, simcha, because in Parasha Re'eh, the fourth parsha of the book of Dvarim, simcha appears. There's a theme here, and what I want to do with the two of you and the three of us together is really explore this. First, we have a certain kind of training, which is we look at the text and we look at what the text is saying. So, Jeremy, I'm going to turn to you and go give us the lexicographical or the more philological analysis, the appearance of the word simcha and its frequency in the book of Dvarim, and maybe in other books, places in the Bible. What do we notice when you
Oh
type in
my
the word
goodness.
simcha?
Well, thank heavens for all of the electronic tools at our disposal, which are not loading right now. But simcha is a word which is characteristic of Deuteronomy, and you should do these mitzvot, and you shall rejoice in them. Now, what exactly? Um, it is true. My electronic concordance is not loading beautifully on the page right this minute, but it's okay because I do know the fact that simcha as a verb, to rejoice, is characteristically present in Deuteronomy more than in other books. And it does seem to refer most of all to um, a kind of ritual joy. That is to say, you will come, you will do the mitzvot, and you will rejoice in them. And we know these things among other contexts. A song that is well known to synagogue goers around Sukkot, "V'samachta b'chagecha," you shall rejoice in your holiday. And similarly, that another instance known to synagogue goers and people who follow in the book of Vayikra, Leviticus, it says you'll take the four species of Sukkot, the Kafot Marim, Pri Eitz Hadar, V'anaf Eitzavot, V'arvei Nachal, and you shall rejoice before the Lord 7 days. What is it that you're supposed to do? Is it a description of feeling, hey, I feel so happy? Well, that's a good thing, and people should, in fact, feel that life-affirming happiness. But it would appear that the continual repetition, and I believe in our parsha, if we look it up, I think that it will appear six times at least as a verb. It does appear that it is somehow a description of ritual participation, that you will come to the holiday and you will uh,
Rejoice.
rejoice. But this appears to have some sort of specific. I don't really know why
So I would
my
say,
my my
So what,
my my
according
Al
to
HaTorah page is not loading well,
all
but
right. So
it
so
appears to have
let me
some sort of participation in communal feasting,
there
communal
you
so
go.
what I
celebration.
would add here is that it seems that perhaps the emphasis on Simcha and Devarim is directly related to our Parsha with the centralization of the sanctuary, which extends the ritual component of all these observances, because now you have to make a trip, a long distance trip, as it were, rather than a local trip, in order to make the various sacrifices where you're required to rejoice.
So now I finally got this thing to load up, and I'll give you one of the characteristic descriptions here in chapter 12. Usmachtem lifnei Adonai Elohechem, and you shall rejoice before the Lord your God. Atem uvnechem uvnotechem, you and your children, male and female. Va'avdechem va'amhotechem, and your servants, male and female. Va'alevi yashem b'sharachem, and the ritual functionaries who live in your gates. You will all take part in this ritual celebration, and it would appear that it includes the feast, or maybe not includes the feast, maybe it centers the feast when it says you and the children, and even the employees, and even the ritual functionaries who don't have land of their own, and therefore it seems like they have less economic stability. They don't really possess their own land. You have to make sure that everybody gets to say, when the holiday comes around and the pilgrimage comes around, exactly as Barry said, we are all feasting and we're all having a great time.
Which puts a big onus on those who make the feast. And I why I want to look at this is because I think we take it for granted that rejoicing just comes as a natural byproduct of get people together and then roast a lamb on the spit, garnish it, put some ketchup on it, put it in a pita, and you're going to have a good time. And a barbecue and a summer barbecue, what could be better? There's a lot of joy there, but there is a sense that there's something more here. And I think, the Torah is just not telling us rejoice because it's saying, make a feast, have a great time. There's got to be a deeper dimension to this. And where I want to go with this is ask the two of you, is this an easy mitzvah or a difficult mitzvah? And to what extent is this relating to, the fact that in the context of a person's life, or in the life of a clan, or in the life of a nation, joy may be actually quite complicated. And here I'll turn to, our joyous colleague, Rabbi Barry Chesler.
How did I know that was coming? So I think that one of the things that we take for granted is that a lot of emotions, we come to them based on various circumstances of our life, but some of them can actually be programmed. And I was thinking today while I was walking the dog for some reason, that there are a lot of times when we get up in the morning and we might want to say to ourselves, I really don't feel like going to work, but I have to. So you go to work and you actually have a good day. So that sometimes there's an initial barrier to fulfilling our destiny, as it were. And this happens a lot, I think, with joy, because it seems like joy should be spontaneous, when in fact, I think there's a programmatic element to it, meaning that we can actually make ourselves joyful in certain situations. And that's essential to the observance of the holidays.
So this is the question I want to ask, which is, can you just flip a switch and make yourself joy? I'll give you an example because two examples come to mind, one the personal and one the kind of collective national. The personal is, I asked AI to do this calculation for me. In a clan of, let's say, a patriarch, a matriarch, and several children, their spouses, several dozen grandchildren, and associated people in the orbit, how and actuarially speaking, how much loss would they experience on a regular basis? If you are a clan of 70 to 100 people, it's quite likely that in an event of great proportions, like a loss of a person, happens frequently. So given the life of a clan, it's possible that you are carrying with you all of, big word here, vicissitudes of life, the trials, tribulations of life, and that you come to your pilgrimage and you're missing one. I can't tell, we've all experienced this, okay, where you show up to, and Jeremy, this will be new for you, you'll show up at Rosh Hashanah, you're missing around your table your father, you're missing a loved one. The first time, let's say, in the orbit of your life, you're missing someone. And how do you be joyous in that
So
circumstance?
what I would add here is there's a wonderful quotation from Daniel Patrick Moynihan before he was a senator. He was talking to Mary McGrory, the reporter for the Washington Post, after the assassination of President Kennedy. And McGrory said to him, "Will we ever laugh again?" And he responded, "We will laugh, but we will no longer be young." And I think that life goes on with its vicissitudes, its trials and tribulations, as you so eloquently put, but there's an element of intentionality to the religious life. And sometimes we have to fight against what we think we're feeling in order to get to a higher level.
I just want to,
Well,
go
that's
ahead, pitch
this
it to
is
you.
first of all, that that is a great comment, and only such a wonderful Irishman as Daniel Patrick Moynihan would have come up with that to another Irish woman to say, we'll laugh again, but we'll never be young again. Ah, I love that. But so maybe emotion is not exactly the right term here, because it's a surge of personal feeling. Am I happy? Do I feel a little hollowness? Is everything going the way I want it to? Those things are highly individual. But let's think about for a moment the halachic claim that there's no mourning on Yom Tov or Shabbat,
Yeah,
and there's happy. The halachic phrase is the communal happiness precedes the individual mourning.
such an important idea. Yeah.
And I don't think that means um, that your personal emotional state is entirely set aside, because that's unrealistic and probably not very nice to expect that of people. But what I do think it means is that the orientation of affirmation, of goodness, um, like to be a religious person, nobody disputes that there's lots of suffering in the world. No, and to be a religious person, if you said, listen, Gamzula Tova, everything works out for the best, and there's no such thing as suffering, that would be religiously very shallow and very scanty, and I wouldn't want that religion. But neither do I want a religion to say, you know what, the condition of life is really suffering, and it's terrible, and really life stinks. I want religion, in fact, to say the opposite, that we inculcate in our practices an affirmation that life is good. And so the communal simcha that orients to holidays, or that orients to individual celebrations like a birth or a wedding or something like that, is the claim that life is good. Life is affirmative. You will not always feel it at each moment, but what we do in our holiday cycles or in our life cycles is to affirm that it's good. And I'm thinking about, in particular, a pasuk, a verse that appears in the rebuke section of Kitavo, of the Tochecha. If you don't follow the covenant, then all these terrible punishments will happen to you. Tachar asher lo avarta et Adonai Elohecha b'simcha.
Simcha.
It's because you did not serve the Lord your God, with joy, that all these terrible sufferings will befall you. And I don't think that it means that every day you wake up and hey, today was a great day. That's not realistic. But I think that it means perhaps something like, because you did not say this path is good, this path is affirmative, and life is good, then lo and behold, life is not good. So what I do think that it is hoping for us is on holidays and at these special joyous moments like marrying off your third child, but fourth marriage, you say, hey, you know what? I've had some suffering, I've had loss. We all know that this is true. And life is meaningful, life is beautiful, and I say yes.
So just to take it the one little, it's not a baby step, but one step further, which is, can we do a linkage here to what we would argue as the central theme in Deuteronomy, which is the theme that it culminates with, which is choose life. When you go to that passage at the end, of the book, it's really the final statement that Moshe is making before every other kind of epilogue. He's saying, I set before you life and death, the good and the bad. Choose blessing and curse. Choose life. Choose life. And so what we're saying here is, and I can perform the kind of logical linkage between happiness and life, and saying, by fulfilling the obligation to be happy, I am in fact fulfilling the obligation to choose life. I mean, Can you state it? State it in your way.
There you go. You said it
There you
perfectly. You said it perfectly. To 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 give a gift. This is Yochanan Must. To give a gift with love and joy means to have that affirmative sense that, man, this is a beautiful way to live. And we said before we started recording, this is not perfectly instantiated throughout all of Jewish history or the history of any human religions. But it should be the case that Hashem created the world. Like you look at the world, and God looked at the world and saw that God had created and said, "This is very good." And it is not true that means you'll never die. You will die. It doesn't mean you're never going to get sick. You will get sick. You will get sick and you will die. And I hope that's at 120, surrounded by your loved ones. But for 100% of people, suffering does come. When I was in Portugal, I actually saw this person with a tattoo, American person with a tattoo. It was written on her arm, "No rain, no flowers." All right, that's not a bad tattoo. Tattoos are forbidden, but no rain, no flowers. There's no suffering. Then there's also no growth, and that's okay. But what you don't want to say, like there was a religious, very influential in Kabbalah and influential in early Christianity, but ancient Jewish and ancient Christian, and I think Muslim too, called Gnosticism, that basically held that the world was created by a wicked, evil power, and that the trick was to liberate the good that was imprisoned in the world. And there's some real deep richness to that, and it is a theme that manifests itself in Kabbalah. But no, in the end of the day, that is not a profound religious. It may be profound, but that is not a religious path that I want to take, to say that the world is bad and I have to liberate the good to be outside of the world. The opposite is true. I want to say the world is good and I have to enhance the goodness and the joy that is available for us to access.
So what I'd like to come back to is that line of Acharta B'Chaim. When do you need that to be said? And it seems to me you need it to be said at a moment of despair. When things are going well, you don't have to say choose life. You've already chosen. It's when things are starting to fall apart that you have to make that conscious effort to choose life. And what I'm reminded of is a great teaching that when a funeral procession is coming up against a wedding procession on a one-lane road, the wedding procession has priority and the funeral procession must step aside. And why is the reason for that? Because death is permanent and life is fleeting, and we can't give up these moments for joy, even for something as important as a funeral. And I think what is being taught here is that joy is fleeting, and we have to, to borrow a title of one of Saul Bellows' books, seize the day, or perhaps you prefer the Latin term carpe diem. And we have to make more effort to bring joy into the world because it's not always here.
So let me turn now to the moral dimension of joy and rejoicing. I'm not sure that the Torah is actually kind of highlighting this or pointing this way, but this what I'm saying is this is more homiletic than pshat or pashut pshat, right? Which is I'm extrapolating from a commandment of joy that there are many dimensions to joy, that it's very difficult to comport yourself all the time with joy, and that that there is a dimension to joy that because it is always located within a social context, it has ramifications for everyone. Just this simple truth, which is, it's very nice to be around joyous people. It's horrible to be around, miserable people.
I wouldn't know.
It's nice to be around people who are fully grateful for their lives. It's really horrible to be around people who are always lamenting or coming up with grievances. I'm not going political here, but what I want to say is that the moral dimension of gratitude, of joy, is that you make life worth living. You give meaning to people, and that you make the good possible, and therefore, one can add, it's an obligation to be joyous. Mitzvah gedola liot besimcha ta'amid. Our great Rabbi Nachman said, right? Mitzvah gedola, liot besimcha. And this comes out of the Hasidic world, but it's rooted in a place like Deuteronomy also. It's a mitzvah to be joyous all the time, not because you need to have a disposition of joy against the backdrop of all the things that are horrible in this world. That is enough. But because when you're joyous, you tint the world in a way that makes people want to contribute and give and do and be a benefit to others.
This is it. Absolutely. Like if and Nachman was famously,
depressed.
We would say, looking with modern eyes, that he was a kind of a bipolar person with tremendous highs, tremendous lows, and in those teachings, he's also got this image of, there's a dance, and the Hasidim are in the circle dance, and there's one guy at the edge who won't come in, and you have to take your friend and bring that person into the circle dance. And that's a symbol, first of all, of a social engine to take the sad people and make them rejoice, but also to an internal psychological one, to take the pieces of yourself that don't know how to orient to rejoicing and bring them partly through force of will. And it's not Pollyannish. It's not Gamzu Latova. It's not everything is for the best, but it is to find the affirmation. This is just a totally different thing, not from the Torah tradition at all. I believe this is like either the last song he wrote, or maybe even was released posthumously or something like that. But Jimmy Buffett has a great song called Bubbles Up, which is like diver's advice. If you get lost and you're all confused and you're gonna get the bends or whatever, just notice where the bubbles are going, and that's the surface. So you got to go up, bubbles up. And he says, just know you are loved. There's a light up above, and joy is always enough. Bubbles up. And that's pretty great, man.
So I have two themes I want to conclude with. One is the religious dimension of joy, and that joy ought to be a calling card, or the way that we comport ourselves for the sake of making religious life, Judaism in particular, and God in general, in the world. Magnify beauty in the world and God's presence in the world, because there's nothing worse than a religious, than
now let's just say there, my friend.
Yeah.
Magnified, sanctified.
Yeah.
Sometimes you want it darker.
So I have always said that with
Leonard Cohen did, of course, enter into that space, and you want it darker. If you are the dealer, I'm out of the game. That is a feature, and there's a crack in everything. That's how the light.
100%. And so he understood that. And he also suffered from bouts of depression in a major way. So he understood what it meant to be. But I'm saying that it's incumbent, it's important, dafka, for religious people to comport themselves with joy, because they are ambassadors of religion and they're ambassadors of God. And nothing turns off people from religious life more than dour, sullen, depressive-looking religious people.
And we see this in people say in a way which I think is superficial and not true of our religion, Jewish guilt, whatever. I mean, they're human beings, but you do see in the kind of like very, very hard, guilt focused, like Irish Catholic, some of the Calvinist. I have a recent convert who grew up in a very, very severe Calvinist home, and as a child, was told that God was just consigning people to suffering in hell, and he's like, no, thank you. And
Really?
and so Baruch Hashem, he's found a different religious path.
Judaism, it's a avenue of joy. Let me bring this one to a conclusion, which is, the theme that runs through Re'eh includes pilgrimage, the coming to Jerusalem on the holidays, rejoicing. It also includes a message about bringing your tithes to Jerusalem. So we're not going to get into this. There's a whole menu of different kinds of offerings and things that you bring, and declarations that are said when a pilgrim comes to the place that God chooses, bearing the gifts for the Levi'im and the Kohanim, etc. They're to make a declaration. One of the declarations that is said is at the end, or in the fifth chapter of Mishnah Maser Sheni, where this pilgrim is saying, "I did everything you commanded me," and that's he's saying, I reaped my harvest, I brought I'm doing everything you're commanding me, and the rabbis add 3 words there: samachti v'simachti vo. I rejoiced and I made others rejoice. And I get just a chill thinking about that, because that encapsulates what we mean by joy. Joy, it's one thing to rejoice, okay? But how do you rejoice? What gives you the most joy? Rabbi Kalmanovsky, what gives you the most joy? V'simachti. Bringing?
I mean, my grandchild.
Yeah, which is bringing joy to other people is what gives us joy, right? In other words, providing for, making sure that people are enlivened. And here again, I'll go back to a wedding. It's so interesting that the wedding blessings include Sameach tesamach re'im avim kesamechacha yitzircha began eden mikera. You shall make them rejoice. So if it's one thing to rejoice, it's another thing to cause others joy. And if causing others joy is what gives us the most joy, then if God is causing others to rejoice, then God is actually a joyful God. What do you think of that? God.
That's pretty great.
Most of the time.
Most of the time.
Yeah. But even God has moments of despair. But I think the key here, just to summarize perhaps, is that we all have moments of despair. The challenge is not to let those moments become extended. And so the solution is to seek out moments of happiness, and that we hope might be extended, even though we recognize that most of the time, moments of happiness are just moments. But we have it within our power to find more joy, more happiness in the world. And that's what we're taught to do in this Parsha.
And I just want to, if we think about the Sidur, Yismach Lev Mevakshe Adonai.
Yeah.
Those who seek the Lord should rejoice. This is a psalm that we say, this is not actually, this psalm does have a simcha word in it, but V'hu kechatan yotzei is Psalm 119. We said on Shabbat and holidays. V'hu kechatan yotzei michupato yasis kegibor larutz orach. Like a groom. This is an image from the Yom Kippur liturgy also, like a groom coming out from his chamber.
The bridal chamber.
Probably means not to be overly
consummated.
It probably not to be overly specific here, but it probably means having successfully consummated. At Yasis, and you will rejoice like a runner who's run the course. And then the song goes on. Pekude Adonai Yesharim Misamche Lev. God's mitzvot bring joy. Now, I don't think that that means that God's mitzvot are Xanax or Prozac, that they alleviate negative emotion. It means that the mitzvot help you see that the world is good, and
Yeah.
that'd be a good thing for
Very good.
religion.
Beautiful. Well, that would be a good place to bring this joyful conversation to a close. Pikudei Adonai Mesamchei Lev. It's true. Lots of ways to bring joy to people. It's our obligation to rejoice and to bring joy to others. And we hope that our little conversation has brought joy to our many, many myriads of listeners and viewers. To the people at Machane Ramah in the Berkshires, special shout out on this one of the last Shabbatot in the summer. It's not the last Shabbat, right? We got at least one more.
I don't
More, no?
remember. No, it could be the last Shabbat. I don't know because I just spoke to Odelia today. She's working at Ramah in Jerusalem, and the kids on the Ramah seminar are coming home on Monday. We wish
Yeah.
them
Okay.
a
So
wonderful summer.
could be.
Super
So
wonderful.
we wish everyone a joyous Shabbat, a joyful Shabbat, and take joy seriously because it's a mitzvah. And from all of us, Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat
Shabbat
Shalom.
Shalom.
See you next week on the next edition of Parasha Talk. Bye-bye.